And Ruth, I will start with you. What is the origin of the project, and how did you assemble the various players in it?
Sandy Gulliver had a Facebook group called Showgirls before the pandemic, and people that she knew could join the group. And if you were in a show or wanted to see a show, you would post it in the group and other members could join you. So people came to my storytelling show. I went to see other people in plays or musicals, and it was a social group. We'd meet for dinner beforehand. Then when the pandemic started, she started inviting people in that group to have some Zoom calls just to catch up, you socialize, since you couldn't do it in person, and also have any industry conversations. And we just decided that we should create our own content, as you keep hearing from casting directors and agents and other people.
Sean, when you were presented this project, what type of research did you do before you met the cast and got in the nuts and bolts of doing it on Zoom?
Yeah, so the way I was presented this job was that, again, Sandy Gulliver actually just put a post on Facebook saying, hey, we're looking for people that might be interested in directing a web series. I had worked with, worked with Sandy a couple of times, and I loved working with her, and I knew that there were some other people in the group that I hadn't worked with that I always wanted to. So I said, hey, I might be interested. And instead of like her actually even sitting down to talk to me or call a phone call, next thing I know, she's telling 17 people, hey, we got a director, it's Sean Patrick Leonard, and he's ready to go. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
And he hadn't even script, didn't really know, the arc of what we were doing with the story. So kudos to Sean for just jumping off that diving board.
Yeah, so when it came to doing research, I did absolutely none because I had no idea what was happening.
How much is out there anyway? I mean, come on.
Well, that was very true as well. Yeah. So luckily we got one of our actors and producers, or part of the group, and Myrna, she knew a gentleman by the name of Alan Albert, and Alan he had some computer experience, of course, but he had a little bit of this Zoom experience. So I definitely leaned on him as much as I possibly could. And he was like, I'm kind of learning this too. So how about we just kind of learn together? And we found after an episode or two that we were able to really start to bend the rules a little bit, which was really lovely.
Lovely.
And obviously it had to be over Zoom because in-person filming is still somewhat reduced. And also the average age of our cast, 17 people, is 62. We would also have to get locations and a crew, which in any time is a lot more arrangements and work than just gathering on Zoom. So that's one reason we picked our setting, which is a Zoom funeral. So there was a reason for people to be on Zoom. And that way we could have all the people come in, and everyone sort of created their own character, which was a very interesting process. I had the idea to have everyone do a self-tape 1-minute monologue as their character before we had even written anything, so that they could give us their impressions. And then the writing team used those as a jumping off point to work with the story.
Well, that's pretty cool. That was my second question, of course. And how did you decide on the relative length of the episodes? Because that's really important with Zoom and everything.
I think so. I had watched a bunch of other web series before this, and then I went looking for Zoom web series, of which there's a couple. The main example I was thinking of is Distant Learners, I believe it's called, with David Pasquesi in it. And so I was sort of using that as an example, and I felt that to sort of keep the pace going, we wanted to have shorter episodes, but I didn't set a time limit. I didn't read scripts and say, oh, this is 4 minutes and 10 seconds kind of a thing. I felt it was appropriate to put in a cliffhanger to hopefully make people come back for more.
And Sean, what was your input on the length of time of the shows?
It was the shorter the better, I would much rather leave an audience, wanting more than, turning it off 4 minutes into it, with 10 minutes to spare type of thing. Also to play along with the whole, I'm calling this kind of a web serial because it kind of harkens back to the days of, the Saturday morning serial where, it was, you would listen to it on the radio or you would watch The Lone Ranger and it always ended in a cliffhanger. So
That's
that was
awesome.
something that when I was, presented with these scripts, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of, I know that I didn't exist at that time, but I heard so many different stories about it that I was like, oh wow, this would be really cool to do kind of a modern day Saturday morning serial, the amuse-bouche of Saturday morning serials.
And as the head writer, I wanted to give people reasons to come back and also have plot twists that people weren't expecting. Since it's a Zoom funeral, if you just sort of think about what might happen, it could be just people giving tributes to the deceased. And I didn't want that because I didn't think that would be enough to sustain episodes. So we,
Right.
we came up with twists and turns that hopefully people couldn't see coming and would be like, oh, look at that.
Sean, one of the things that impressed me was the actor's commitment to character, and you can speak to this as well, Ruth. There were great reactions to the action of the dialogue, and all were laser focused and engaged. What did you have to do? What did both of you have to do to make sure that the buy-in remained consistent?
Ruth, I'll deflect to you, please.
I was fortunate to know almost everybody in the cast before we started. So when I was writing, I could hear them saying the lines in my head. So when I wrote for people, I tried to think of, I didn't try to pull out of the story and think, but when I came up with an idea, I thought, oh, I can hear, for example, Daryl Anisfeld as Clyde's sister Marina. I can hear her saying that, or Sandra Baskin, who plays Penny Purdy. I know what I think how she would say things. So the word choice to me was very important to that specific actor, I prefer, to that specific actor, and also to how I thought their character might behave in a given situation. And then Sean was more responsible for the on-camera thing, since we're all present at all
Right.
times. You can't just be like, I don't have a line now. Here's my line. You had to be focused all the time.
Now, would you have to stop it, Sean, to say, hey, I think you're getting a little bored there, or you're not reacting to what's going on?
For sure. I wouldn't say it quite like that, but because of my background in theater, it was always extremely important that no matter what, I know when I'm an audience member going to see a play, as much as I'll pay attention to who's speaking, a lot of the times I pay attention to who's not speaking. Just to see if they're actually, doing their job, actively listening, things like that. So that was one of the things that I felt was extremely important because because we were figuring out technology on the fly. I had to set this up more like a play than I did an actual film, in that, if you blew a line, in a film, as we know, we could just do another take. In this, we'd have to go all the way through. And yes, if there were major glitches, we'd have to start over. So it was, me, gently reminding everybody, like, be on your toes, because you have no idea when somebody's going to be listening to you or looking at you, just
Sure.
to see what you're doing. So I think that's how I was able to keep everybody engaged.
And I've had a couple people say they've watched each episode more than once. The first time to sort of get the sense of the story and see what's going on. And then the second time to see how all the other people are behaving while things are happening.
I have to confess, I did the same thing. This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2020.